Hello there, this is Mike from thesubstream.com, and this is an episode of Watch This Instead for the week ending 19th of February, 2010. We talked about Scorsese yesterday in a little video about the very important dudes and dudettes in film history, and went over his career and about how people kind of perceive him as the master, rightfully so, of gangster films. But the point that we wanted to raise in that video is that he works really well in other genres as well. He does comedy, he does period films, he does grand guignol, kind of neo-noir adaptations like with Cape Fear, and that's really the kind of territory he's exploring with Shutter Island. This video would be a lot easier if the movie was terrible, because we could say, go back to the gangster stuff, and we could tell you guys what to go watch instead of Shutter Island. But we can't do that because Shutter Island's actually kind of a really good movie. It's not perfect, it's not in the kind of top tier rung of Scorsese movies, but that's pretty hard to get to considering he's made 2 or 3 of the best movies of all time. But it's really, really good and you should see it. But if you have a broken leg or you're homebound or you don't have enough money to go to the theater or your car is broken because all the oil fell out of the bottom of it, or you don't have a car because it got hit by lightning, or you got hit by lightning and you can't leave your house, what you should do is get 3 TVs and tape them together, and then go to Blockbuster or go to zip.ca if you're in Canada, or go to Netflix if you're in the States, and get 3 movies that you can watch at the same time on your crazy omni-TV to recreate the Shutter Island experience. The first movie is Altered States from 1980, directed by a guy named Ken Russell. It stars William Hurt as a professor of abnormal psychology who travels to the deep recesses of prior civilizations and has ayahuasca and goes on this crazy trip, and then gets it and goes into the sensory deprivation tank and takes more trips, and he eventually takes so many trips and sees such crazy stuff, such crazy intense hallucinations, that he starts to devolve into a pile of goo and he must somehow rescue humanity. It's one of the coolest, most original, most interesting sci-fi films of all time, and it's one of the best films that deals with kind of the power and importance of hallucinations and dreams, something that a lot of movies don't do very well. Scorsese's Shutter Island handles it fairly well. There's some really good hallucination dream scenes experienced by the hero, the U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels, and some that are kind of not so good. But overall, the effect is really well, and it's a really pretty good usage, Shutter Island's that is, of the kind of hallucination dream sequence. So start on the left-hand side TV of your omni-TV and put in Altered States. For the second part of that, go back and get Hitchcock's, maybe his masterpiece, and obviously the dude has a couple masterpieces, but this is maybe the one, Vertigo, which stars Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak as a detective working as a private eye and the woman haunted by a spirit of some woman in a painting. It's the classic example of one of the classic thriller directors, Hitchcock, creating this overwhelming, permeating sense of almost palpable dread and unease. And he does that technically with the way that he composes his pictures, definitely the way that they're cut together, the music that he uses, and the performances that he gets out of his lead actors. And that's, again, something that Scorsese is doing very well in Shutter Island. This isn't a normal thriller. Everything in this movie is important in that everything in this movie is used to manipulate the audience and make them experience this kind of overwhelming sense of dread and almost panic. It's neat to see a movie that deftly uses technical elements to screw with audiences' expectations and emotions. And that's something that Hitchcock was the master of doing. So on TV2, put on Vertigo. On TV3, the far right-hand side movie, get The Big Heat by Fritz Lang, 1953, put that sucker on. Glenn Ford as the righteous, but still kind of a jerk, cop, whose wife is killed by a crime syndicate. The second in command is Lee Marvin, one of my all-time favorite actors. It's a classic noir about a kind of a cursed but morally kind of upstanding cop who just trouble, strife, stress, and tension. One of the classic all-time noirs. Everything that makes noir worth watching is in The Big Heat. And a lot of that is in Scorsese's Shutter Island, the way that they use music, the tense atmosphere, a troubled, not quite morally rectitudinous dude in the middle of it all. It's a movie that's got inspirations in a bunch of different genres: psychological thrillers, noir, in kind of weird experimental sci-fi like Altered States. And if you're not going to go see it tonight, which I think you probably should, go get those 3 movies and watch them all at the same time and try and somehow jam your mind into the mind of Scorsese and experience the movie that he wanted you to experience. Or just pay $14 and give him the money and go experience the movie he made.